Here, I'm transitioning just a little bit here because, Eric, I'm quoting you here. You say America is running away from Christianity and to the supernatural. And you have been sounding a warning to Christians for a long time. And of course, you got your start in the rock music industry. And again, we're back to entertainment and all that can do that's negative. Not that it's always all negative, it isn't. But too often, it's going down the pathways that we're talking about today. So, Eric, what I want to do is you, in one of your messages, and I've heard this message and I've seen it online, this message about warning against the occult. And there are 9 occult practices found in Deuteronomy, which is just so obvious. The Bible is saying, you know what, you can't do this, and this, and this. Talk to us for a little bit about the Deuteronomy 18 passage.
There are 9 forbidden practices. That's what David and I called it in Entertaining Spirits Unaware. In fact, that encompasses 10 chapters in the book, over 100 pages, just looking at these 9 different practices. And several of them deal directly with what we're talking about here as far as the whole idea of psychics and that kind of thing. Consulter with familiar spirits is one of them. A wizard is one. A necromancer, that is speaking to someone who is deceased or trying to communicate with them. An observer of times, that would be in astrology. Divination, these kind of things are talked about so directly. It is the clearest passages in the scripture, the clearest direct frontal assault, if you will, against the world of the occult from the mouth of God, and it uses the strongest condemnatory words that you're going to find anywhere in the entire Bible out of the mouth of God when he speaks about this. He calls it an abomination. That's what the King James Version uses 3 times, an abomination, and that's a very accurate translation of the word. So I believe our position ought to be the same as God's. I hope all the listeners would agree with that. We should adopt God's position as ours on this issue that he spoke so strongly about.
I think all 3 of us were heavily impacted when the Harry Potter books came along and movies. And I think we were all horrified. And I think what we all saw right away was a lot of Christians thought, nothing wrong with this. It's fantasy fiction, it's literature, it's getting my kids to read, going, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Jill, why is fantasy literature, even when it's laced with the occult, not okay?
Anytime you bring in the tools of the occult, tea leaf reading, which is done in Harry Potter, talking to the dead, done in Harry Potter, you're cracking the door open into that spiritual dimension of darkness. And unfortunately, that's something that was written into the Harry Potter material. I'm all for using your imagination. I'm all for telling wonderful stories full of adventure and things that can't possibly happen in the real world. I mean, God gave us wonderful imaginations. But when you start pulling in that doctrine of the demons, the darkness, and wrapping it all up in a nice shiny package, then you've opened up yourself and your life to these forces that are not going to be doing or wanting to do very good things for you. It's a dangerous thing.
There are actually books out there that are talking about you can find God in Harry Potter. I want to play a 2-minute soundbite of John Grainger, and then I want to go to Eric for some feedback on this. But John Grainger is an author who's written a book titled Looking for God in Harry Potter, and he actually says that J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter, has smuggled the gospel into the book series and the film. And I think that everyone in the studio today would have huge issues with that. But let's play this 2-minute sound clip.
In a secular culture, entertainment takes on a religious function. It's our escape from a natural secular culture. You look at the Harry Potter books, and as I said, they're so laden with Christian imagery and with symbols and with themes and with meaning that all come from a Christian background. Rowling has succeeded in smuggling the gospel into people's hearts, and they have this response to it. I mean, as I've traveled around the country talking about Harry Potter, I've met people that have read the stories 15, 16, 17 times. And I say to them, do you understand that there's a resurrection theme in these books, that love conquers death, and that you're having a response to that theme and that meaning? And they're shocked. Most of them are unchurched. But these books are so popular is because the human being is designed by Christ, for Christ. And these books bring that message to them. I have never met Mrs. Rowling. It'd be an honor to meet her, certainly. I have no idea what her response. Friends have told me that the reason I'll never know until all the books are out is that because I've, in a way, unwrapped a lot of the mystery. When she said, if you understand the Christian meaning of these books, you understand their ending, the reason that she's never going to talk about it until the ending is that she doesn't want to reveal that mystery. Certainly I would have a lot of questions for her about the direction of the stories because I want to know how they end too. I would simply, though, profess my admiration for what she's doing. C.S. Lewis says that great literature trains people in stock responses, smuggles the gospel, and baptizes the imagination. And certainly her books, more than any other books in transit, in publication right now, are doing those three things. They train us in the stock responses, the virtuous responses, the truth and virtue and beauty. They smuggle the gospel, as I said, all these Christian themes and images, the resurrection subtext, this. And they baptize the imagination. They prepare us. If we're not already church, they prepare us to accept the Christ because we've already had some imaginative experience of the power of the resurrection and the great story.
Eric, help us understand this. Does the Potter series, does it baptize the imagination? Has the author smuggled the gospel into Harry Potter? She says there is Christian meaning in the books, and there are some Christians who actually do believe that. Help us understand the insanity I just heard.
You see me shaking my head through the whole thing. I've been on to Grainger. In fact, I called his publisher trying to get through to him to talk to him. I'm shocked. I'm stunned, but this is sadly where Christians are in the day we're in. When the Maharishi got off the plane with the Beatles, and the Beatles and Mia Farrow, the actress, began to endorse him, and the New Age movement started to grow. And we heard it over and over and over of how wonderful it was, how we can learn from it, and how we can have supernatural spiritual power from it. And now we've got the world of the occult, and we have Christians that don't understand there's no such thing as white magic. That white and black magic come from the same source. I use this example all the time. I saw Anton LaVey before he passed away, and he's the Black Pope of the Satanic Church. So I'm in a panel on television, and he mocked a minister that was on the platform. He mocked him because he said that person has no idea where this power is coming from. They better realize that white and black magic both come from the same source. Only thing I ever heard that Anton LaVey said that I agreed with, by the way. And that's the problem, is we're not using the Bible to think about the very theme, the very crux of the Harry Potter novels and so many of the other novels that are out there that are kind of Harry Potter wannabes. So it's the desensitization process that's taken place in the minds of the Christian world, let alone the world around us. And we are so hooked on these things, we're trying to Christianize everything we can and bring it in and say it's palatable and acceptable before God.
And the thing here that is interesting is that John Grainger says we have to wait to the end to find out what J.K. Rowling's true meaning is. Well, at the end, Dumbledore, she says, is gay. So Dumbledore comes out. You know, I have a problem with the Harry Potter books representing the gospel simply even based on that, since Dumbledore runs all the way through them.